Texas Mike is here as well at the news desk. How are you, sir?
Doing great.
Great. And we have joining us via phone, Tom, is that you?
Hello, Granite State.
Yes, Tom Myers. How are you, my friend? I don't think that you and I have ever actually spoken other than online.
I don't think so, no. I think we've known of each other from my many appearances on the old IPNM. But no, I believe this is our first time actually speaking in person. I know we've communicated over Messenger.
Yes.
No, this is my first time actually speaking.
Well, it's great to talk with you, of course. Now, you have something very exciting to discuss. You've got this brand new, we should start there, I think, because this is a big day. Your new podcast drops today. That's what the young people say now, as I'm sure you're aware, Tom. They say drops. It drops today. That's the.
I'm not aware of what young people are doing anymore. Maybe if you asked me 10 years ago,
well,
I would, but not so much.
Well, Tom, we try to keep the language, we try to keep the lingo very young and hip on this show because because that's a key demographic. So I want the listeners to think I'm a hep cat and not some jive turkey. You understand what I'm saying?
As much as you can get away with on FM radio in the 2020s.
Right, exactly. Our friend Texas Mike here. He's a young. What are you? 26?
Yes, I am.
He's a very young man, so he helps me with a lot of the lingo. But yeah. So your new.
He's your ambassador to your possible future and possible sponsorships.
Yes,
Yes, I am.
And to the youth of America. It's quite wonderful. But yeah, so you've got the new podcast, and I love the title, by the way, Tom Myers versus the Rest of the World. I love that. Tell us about it. What's it all about?
It's modeled on sort of the late night comedy shows and also on like Sunday morning panel discussion shows because, it's a comedy podcast, but, I discuss news and, current events, anything else going on. Also just weird videos I happen to find online. I go ahead and share those. I don't know if you took a preview of the episode that's going out tonight, but we have a wide variety of topics is discussed on tonight's show, mainly surrounding some little medical bug that's going on. I don't know if you heard of it. It's called coronavirus 19, also known as SARS-2. That's been kind of hitting the streets a bit. Texas Mike, is that how I'm supposed to say that? Texas Mike?
Hitting the streets, is that correct, Texas Mike?
Yes, sure, why not?
Hitting the streets, that's right, yes. I think I remember, Tom, this does sound familiar. I think I remember hearing something about this back in March or something, but I haven't paid much attention to it since then because I remember the president saying something about, don't worry about it. We have 1 or 2 cases and it's just going to wash through or something like that. So which was good enough for me. I mean,
right.
President Trump's word with me, his word is bond. he said, don't worry about it.
In the meantime, I've been going out and hugging all my older relatives to put them out of their misery just in case.
That's great. I've been licking doorknobs everywhere I go, of course, but good for you.
And I can say that because there's a very good chance that none of my relatives will be listening to this, so I'm safe.
Oh, well, okay. Well, that's good. You don't want them to know that you had an ulterior motive when hugging them. I understand.
They know. I think they know.
Oh boy. Yeah. So, have you always done this, sort of political satire or, tell us about your comedy in a broader sense. Does it tend to be about this kind of thing or what do you do as far as comedy?
Well, not really. If you listen to my last CD called "Make America Innate Again," which is just basically a send up of the some current trending campaign slogan at the moment. I mean, despite that, I've always been very politically minded. But if you take a listen to that CD, I think it's like 45, 46 minutes long, and only 8 minutes of it is about politics. And that's split up between making fun of Republicans as well as Democrats. So I'm not really a largely political comic.
Yeah.
Like if I do, for example, this podcast that I'm doing, obviously it's heavily political based, and during my stage show, I only reference it a little, but not as much.
Yeah.
When I'm on stage.
It is, though. I mean, the times that we live in, and I don't mean about COVID-19 specifically, but I mean in a broader sense, the Trump administration. I mean, do you find that even though politics is not what's at the center of your comedy, but when you do go to that subject, do you find that the Trump presidency has made it, I don't know if easier is quite the right word, but in terms of accessing material, things to riff on? Because I can tell you from my perspective, I'm not a comedian. I mean, I think some people think I'm funny, but I know doing this show has been very, very easy during the Trump administration. It literally is the one thing I will miss about him is that once he's no longer president, assuming Biden wins, I'll have to go back to doing actual show prep because it won't be.
Well, the thing is, if he loses, like the people who support him, they're not going away. It's like when Obama became president after 8 years of George W. Bush. It's like, okay, all the Bush supporters and Republicans and the Palinites are all going to disappear into the ether. No, they came back, and they came back strong and reached the summit 4 years ago. So
yeah, I
mean, they're not going away. They're always going to be there. And people ask me, well, if Trump loses, you're going to start making fun of Biden, right? I'm like, well, if he does stupid stuff, and I have made jokes about Biden in the past. I still do at some recent shows I've done.
Yeah.
So I'm not totally opposed to making fun of Democrats, especially as I worked in Democratic politics for 10 years. I mean, I can probably do like another hour or so based on that stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the Trump people, the QAnon folks, they're not going away. Like, they're not going to be quiet. If anything, they're going to be more amped up, because as loud as the anti-Trump resistance was, or still is, the pro-Trump resistance, if we have it from November 4th up to the period including January 20th and beyond, they're going to be just as loud, and they're going to utilize it to their advantage, and it's going to swing back eventually.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, I mean, why not? I mean, why not keep them? Why not keep them in my sights as well?
True. It raises a question, though, and this is something I've been wondering about. And again, this is assuming that Trump loses. Does Trumpism survive Trump leaving? And what I mean by that is, because Trump has changed Republican politics. It's much coarser now. It's much louder. It's much more aggressive. It's much more, as far as personally attacking people and insulting people, and far less politically correct than ever, right? So there's an aggression and a meanness to it now that wasn't quite there before, right? I mean, you couldn't imagine George W. Bush, for example, behaving the way that Donald Trump behaves. Does that continue after Trump is gone? Or, I shouldn't say or, it's not really a binary choice, because it'll probably be somewhere, it'll probably be a mixture of these ideas. But, or, for the sake of argument, does the Republican Party kind of do to Trump what Trump does to people who've betrayed him in some way? In other words, do people like Mitch McConnell kind of act like, oh yeah, Trump, I sort of remember him. I think he used to get coffee for me, but yeah, I didn't really know the guy that well. And then the party just kind of goes on and maybe reverts back to being some sort of polite and civil, and or maybe even evolves into something new. But does Trump get left behind, or does Trumpism continue after Trump is gone?
he used to put bills on my desk. In fact, some of them are still there, I think. I don't know. I haven't really looked at them. I haven't really read them. Well, you see, I don't know. The only thing I can think about is, like if, let's say Trump loses, then I'm pretty sure like Donald Trump Jr. is willing to take up his mantle. And the thing is, if he decides to run for president, obviously he's younger. Maybe he has more of an appeal to get out to a certain sect of voters.
Yeah.
But it may be advantageous because they won't have to throw out all their Trump flags and Trump signs. They can just keep them because it's like a dynasty. It's like if it's like the Kennedy family, but their racism isn't secret.
Yes.
I have to say, for legal reasons, I don't know that the Kennedys have ever said anything racist.
Right.
To the best of my knowledge.
Right, yes. It's always good to include such a disclaimer with that type of statement. Yeah. I mean, I can definitely see Don Jr. Picking up the mantle. The irony being is, and I think Don Jr. is repugnant on every level. However, I think he's actually, in some ways, more articulate than his father. I mean, that's a very, very low bar, but he may.
Well, I mean, have you heard him speak?
Yeah,
he's like if run-on sentences in all caps was a person.
Right. That's true. I
mean, clearly his performance at the Republican convention is just proof that when he heard the phrase when they go low we go high, he took that the wrong way.
What do you mean?
And his girlfriend's even nuts. Kimberly Guilfoyle. Did you see her speech?
I did.
My God, it's like she knew she was yelling basically into a room full of like no people.
Right.
Like, she was expecting to speak into a crowd full of people, but because of the pandemic they couldn't do that. So, basically just one desperate woman yelling into an empty room is basically, the Trump campaign's outreach in a nutshell.
Yeah, she did deliver she delivered the speech exactly how she would if she was speaking to a stadium, opening for the Rolling Stones or something, with the volume with which she was screaming. It was very, very strange. Maybe
I don't know about these full stadia. Tell me about them. I haven't seen them in a while.
That's true. There's that.
No, really, I'm an Orioles fan. I haven't seen a full stadium in a while.
Sports references are.
Your baseball. Your baseball team sucks when the only thing that can fill up the stadium parking lot is free COVID-19 testing.
Oh. See, the sports references are a bit lost on me, Tom, but our friend here, Texas Mike, he's totally with you, aren't you, Texas Mike?
Yes, I am.
He's a big sports guy. But I actually, apparently, COVID-19 made a guest appearance at the World Series. I do know that much.
Yeah. Yes.
That was probably like coming out onto the field after you test positive, taking off your mask and posing with the team photo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all joking aside, it's literally one of the most disturbing things I've seen. And I do sports PA announcing on the side. I announce youth baseball.
Okay.
If one person, our policy is if one player on a team, or like a parent or a coach or someone gets tested positive, the whole team, everyone is cut from the tournament. They're disqualified.
Yeah.
So the fact that the Dodgers were allowed to do that, they allowed Justin Turner to do that,
mm-hmm.
is absolutely sickening.
Yeah.
I've seen coaches from opposing teams get into a fist fight after a game, like at a
really
at a youth baseball game. Yeah.
Really?
On Easter weekend of all weekends.
Wow.
Yeah. Sometimes sports does that. Sometimes, like I'm not lying about this. I've been in a fight at a sports game for HGI.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, this was probably 3 or 4 years ago up at Southern Maine Community College, and we were playing them in the conference championship game. We lost, and they had a couple pricks on their team.
Yeah.
And it right after the buzzer, it went.
Wow. Well, they should have known better. You don't mess with Texas Mike.
I wasn't known as I wasn't known as Texas Mike back then, but
Right. Wow.
I'm pissing myself right now listening to him speak.
Yes. Well, aren't we all? Aren't I'm going to have a lot to. Well, of course, we always clean the studio here anyway, but.
but we always and now we're stuck with COVID and its effects, and Kimberly Guilfoyle yelling into an empty room. She must be an absolute nightmare for everybody in a bar if she's doing karaoke.
Oh my
she
God!
Could take the most,
yeah,
she could take the most innocent song probably, and just make it terrifying. She can make the Carpenters sound absolutely dreadful, like just like me, they long to be close to you.
You're right.
And the sad part is she could probably make that sound better than I just did.
She totally is that person, though. You're right. Yeah, that's why I avoid karaoke. Hey, can you tell us about your? You said you worked in Democratic politics for a decade.
Yeah, I was the chair of my local chapter's Young Democrats. I was also a member of the Democratic Party in my county, and my last campaign that I helped was for a winning U.S. Senate candidate. So once I figured that was pretty much the pinnacle of my political activities.
Wow!
So I thought, okay, that's a good note to end it on.
No, that makes sense.
Interestingly enough, I live in the Baltimore area, but I live in sort of in a suburban county, and I turned in my absentee vote. I walked it into my local board of elections office mid-September, and apparently I was the first person to turn my vote in.
Oh wow!
In that county,
yeah.
There's like the woman literally did not they said, "Oh, you have your absentee ballot application." Like, no, this is my actual ballot, and I threw her into a tizzy because I was the first one to turn it in, and of course, they want to encourage everybody to vote, so they went ahead and everybody stood up and applauded as soon as I turned my ballot. It's like, yay, somebody voted, and
yeah.
And interestingly enough, that was an applause that was louder than any I received at any open mic I did since the pandemic.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's impressive. That's impressive.
Yeah. But you see, here's the thing. I miss voting in person. I like voting not because I care about any of the candidates or any of the issues, but I like that it's the one day of the year I can go to my local high school and not look like a creep.
Right?
Exactly. It's right because.
But I sort of like the idea of absentee voting now.
Yeah.
Because if I would go early vote, and you'd see candidates standing outside with signs wanting to hand you literature, and now I like that I don't have anybody handing me the pamphlet of some dickwad that I don't want to vote for.
Right.
I love that.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
I love it.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Are there a lot of? I would assume in your area now, there's a lot of absentee voting going on, right? I mean, it sounds like all over even in Texas. I guess they've already gotten in more absentee ballots than they did the entirety of people voting in 2016.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I mean, they're breaking records, and of course, even when they say, "Oh, higher turnout tends to favor Democrats," I mean, that's not necessarily true. I mean, all you had to do was look at, say something like 1972 when, everybody, 18-year-olds could vote. So they thought, oh, it's going to be good for the Democrats, and then, Richard Nixon won every single state but Massachusetts.
Yeah.
But typically nowadays, I will give the Republicans a lot of credit. They know how to make a message so that everybody can understand it, and their supporters come out and vote.
Yeah.
They always vote, which is why there's such a push for turnout, and why the turnout tends to get suppressed because Republicans want to stay in power.
Yeah.
And instead of courting the new voters and saying, hey, here's what we've got to offer you, they're just alienating them by saying, no, you can't vote. And then if enough of them sort of ride over them, then they won't be in power anymore. To me, if I was in Republican politics, God help me, it would just make a whole lot more sense to just court new voters.
Right.
Like if any Republicans are listening, just try and be a little more open-minded. Just because they don't look like you or don't think like you. I mean, because especially especially because a good chunk of voters don't identify with a party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you can those are easily persuadable voters.
Right. Yeah. People don't realize that. It doesn't get talked about much. And I understand why the mainstream media doesn't necessarily want to talk about it. But last I looked, 41%, which is huge. 41% of the national electorate in this country are undeclared independent voters. It's
they're tired of the two-party back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
They're like me. I mean, I consider myself fairly left-leaning, but I tend to vote Democrat because that's my that's my only option.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the Democrats, which are considered largely liberal, and then you have the Republicans, which are largely conservative. And you could say, well, you could vote Green Party, but okay, that's been hijacked by the Republican Party, by way of Vladimir Putin and Russia and so many of these hacking techniques. Like there's really not even any third parties anymore. To be honest, I mean, none worth supporting.
Well, they had a unique opportunity in 2016. Third parties did, and they tried. I mean, because you had two relatively unpopular by some metrics nominees in the major parties. So then I remember like Gary Johnson, the Libertarian nominee in 2016, actually, he had no chance of doing anything significant, but he did get some traction in that MSNBC was giving him some attention. And same thing with Jill Stein for the Green Party. But
Jill Stein, like I said, I mean, she was the Green Party's pretty much been hijacked by conservative interests to try and dilute Democratic votes. So I mean, like the Greens, I don't even consider them like a party to the left anymore.
Yeah, well, I don't even know. I mean, they've certainly lost some mojo because I don't even know. I can't remember who the Green Party nominee is this year. Whereas in 2016, Jill Stein, became fairly well known. And of course, the Libertarians this time have Joe Jorgensen, who I'm much less familiar with than I am with Gary Johnson, but nobody's really talking. I don't see MSNBC interviewing her, whereas they did give Gary Johnson a lot of time.
The Green Party candidate, I forget his name, but his first name is Howie.
Okay.
Like if you're gonna try and face down a dictator, you don't want to go up with a name like Howie. Like Howie is the kid who tries to sell you like $5 candy bars, so he and his baseball team can go play in a regional tournament. He's not,
right.
He's not a head of state.
Yeah, that's true. That's a great point. I do believe that is a disqualifier for the presidency. I think it's actually constitutionally, I think, right? You have to be 35 and you can't have a name that ends in an IE, if I'm not mistaken, to be eligible. And of course, you have to be naturalized or a natural citizen. But well, listen, Tom, I know time is short. This has been wonderful. We have to do this more often.
Yeah.
And
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and everyone check out the podcast. It'll be streaming tonight. It's actually going to debut on IPM Nation tonight at 9 p.m. And we'll make sure
IPM 2.
Yes.
And I also want to give a shout out to a couple of my fellow panelists.
Yeah, please.
Jeff Heisen and Avi Mello, both comics in the D.C. Baltimore area, both very funny. I want to thank them for joining me. Look for them on their social media. If you're in the Baltimore area, I believe Abby's doing a show tonight somewhere in the Baltimore area. If you're listening, and look out for Jeff Heisen as well. They're both absolutely hilarious comics. And tonight, because we're talking about COVID, I'm interviewing Tara Haley.
Okay.
She's a science writer. She's written for Forbes magazine. She's written for the New York Times. So we're kicking some butt on this first episode.
Yeah, that's and that will drop tonight at 9 p.m. as the kids say, and we'll be.
And we also have an election night special coming out. So we got a 1-2 punch.
Absolutely. Well, maybe on election day, we not to put you on the spot, but if you have a time on election day, maybe we can have you call back in then to remind people.
I'm a touring road comic, handicapped by a pandemic. I've got time.
You've got time. Understood. All right. Tom Myers from the new with the new podcast, Tom Myers versus the Rest of the World. Thank you so much, my friend. This has been wonderful, and let's do this often. This has been great.
Definitely. Thanks, thanks, Matt. Thanks, Texas Mike.
Yep. Nice to meet you, Tom, and I hope to see you. I hope to see you doing some comedy soon.
Yes, absolutely.
I tell you what, I did in January. I was up in Boston. I did a show there. Very great crowd. So as soon as all this dies down, well, maybe poor choice of words. As soon as this pandemic is no more, I might make a return to New England, and maybe the Manchester area might not be out of the realm of possibility.
Ooh, that would be fantastic. All right.
I got some connections, so
there you go.
All right, yeah.
All right.
Let's talk.
Absolutely. All right, Tom. Thank you so much, my friend. Be safe.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.
All right, man. Take care. All right. That was comedian and satirist Tom Myers and his new show, Tom Myers versus the Rest of the World, will be debuting tonight online, and the podcast will be available on demand after it airs live.